Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live stream today, and thanks for joining us. I'm here again with relationship coaches Ned and Kelly Vandiver, who are also healers and catalysts for profound life change. And I'm happy to have them again on our Thursday live stream because today we're going to be talking about the fifth and final losing strategy that we've been doing a series on losing strategies in relationships, drawing from the work of Terry Real from his book called The New Rules of Marriage. And this losing strategy that we're talking about today is called withdrawal. And this is so common, even among spouses who are generally pretty good at communicating. And it's a losing strategy, obviously, because it doesn't work. Even though a lot of people think that this strategy does the least harm because we're walking away instead of attacking, right? And it might feel like you're protecting yourself with this strategy of withdrawal. But it basically guarantees that you're never going to get what you want in the relationship. And the reason why it doesn't work is that you can't get more out of your marriage through withdrawal because you're destroying emotional connection and you're destroying passion with withdrawal.
Yeah.
You're essentially withdrawal. You're telling your spouse or your partner that it's not worth the fight. Or it's not worth the time or the effort or energy to kind of work through the issues and face them head on. And so you're going to take the path of withdrawal. And once that happens, it's a pretty slippery slope in terms of the ripple effect that creates in the relationship. And we do not want that for you. So today, Kelly and Ned, who work alongside me in the couples care, we're going to talk about how this shows up, what it actually looks like, what withdrawal, how it shows up. So that if you're wondering like, well, do I do that? Is that something my spouse is doing? And we'll talk about specifically how that shows up, why it doesn't work, how it damages your relationship specifically, and then most importantly, what you guys can do as an alternative, how to stop doing it and what you can do as an alternative. So first, let's just talk about what is withdrawal. It's pretty straightforward, right? It's like choosing to opt out of dealing with your spouse and working through tough topics and tough times. It can be like a removal of yourself, either physically or emotionally, either by walking out of the room or becoming emotionally unavailable or refusing to engage in any verbal communication. And it can show up, just like the other losing strategies that we've talked about, it can show up as a very direct, blatant, sort of mean way, like retaliatory. Like getting back at your spouse if you're angry at them, or it can be sort of passive aggressive, or it can even be very passive. It can be really just to avoid conflict, and it's not ill-intended. It's just a way to protect yourself from a perceived threat, right? It can happen when you feel overwhelmed. It can happen when you feel a little bit out of your depth and you're not sure what else to do. Sometimes people will resort to withdrawal. So how does this show up, you guys? Let's talk about specific ways for our listeners to really help identify if this might be something that they're dealing with.
So I'll take it from here. And again, I want to reiterate that withdrawal, just like all the other losing strategies that we've been going over the past several weeks, withdrawal can show up in very mean and angry and direct ways. Kind of like an FU, very retaliatory, right? Getting back at someone, and all the way down to just being really passive by just not saying anything, and as to not cause conflict or piss off your partner. So it runs the gamut, and it shows up in all levels. But one big way that I hear it said and told to me that happens a good bit with couples is one partner, usually one partner, it could be both partners will say this from time to time, but if you have a partner, if you or your partner are someone who threatens to leave the marriage a lot or threatens divorce and leaving, that is definitely a form of withdrawal, because you're basically avoiding the conversation by throwing out a threat as to, avoid. And that is a form of withdrawal. That's one of the mean ways to withdraw.
Just not to bail.
Right?
Yeah. I usually hear that from people who are early in their marriages. Because they haven't gone through the stuff yet, and these things are new, and so the old patterns start showing up. So that's the time I hear that the most often is when these new things, they're getting triggered.
It feels overwhelming. It feels like, oh, if you don't know what to do instead,
yeah,
you don't, and you
I'm going to leave.
There's no other way.
I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one way. Direct mean. Another way that it can show up in a really mean way, withdrawal, is I've heard of some partners, especially men, where women will want to connect emotionally, have a conversation, and the guy just refuses to talk, just will not talk. And sometimes these guys are real jerks, and like they're just being assholes, and they are being really mean about it. And they come from that very grandiose sort of narcissistic place of entitlement. But sometimes when a guy won't talk, just will not talk about it, it's because he thinks there's no point, And again,
he doesn't know how. A lot of times I see it. They don't know how, and then they're afraid of conflict. They're afraid of right.
Right.
Yeah, totally. So, and that's the more like passive, scared, like, I don't want to make you mad. I don't want to piss you off. And you see that more with women, where they don't want to piss off their husbands. So they just won't say anything,
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like you said, it does show up. I see it majoritively in women, and they really need to take note around that, because that's, once you get into that area, that's where, a lot of the women start building this resentment, because they're not vocalizing how they feel. And the withdrawal, this is where it really begins to damage the communication between the two of you, or even the possibility of hopefully communicating in a way that both of you can really understand one another. Because once you choose to go, no, I'm not going to, I'm just not going to say anything, you're just setting yourself up for failure at that point.
Right. It's that classic.
You have to be able to talk at some point about what's going on,
Yeah, right. I know. There's this common dynamic where one spouse will say, hey, what's wrong? And the other person will say nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a form of withdrawal. And that happens on both sides.
Yeah.
Something's wrong, but they won't tell me, and I don't really know, and it creates anxiety.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I say it for the ladies because it's, historically, women have been tempered to keep the peace, so to speak.
Right.
You understand? So that's why I'm saying they really have to be mindful that they don't fall into that trap, because it's very easy to find yourself going, I'm trying to avoid this, I don't want to have any confrontation, that type thing. And then, there's no communication, nothing's being said. And once that starts, you're on your way down,
Totally. Yeah. And there's a great quote, and I don't know whose it is, but I should come up with my own quote in some version of it. But it's like your unspoken desires or requests or expectations can never be met, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're not spoken.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I like that.
So another way that it shows up, these are huge ones, especially this day in the technology age. Something I hear a lot from clients that I work with is, he's always on his phone. He's always on his laptop. Even during family time, he's just always
right.
Yeah, he's playing Candy Crush. He's playing Casino. He's playing the games. A lot of dudes, will play video games like for hours upon end. Again, during family time, during time where mom's like trying to get like kids fed and bathed. It's like not only are they withdrawn from the wife, but also from the kids and the family.
Yeah. And I actually see this begin to have a ripple effect throughout the family over a period of time, because the wife can start to take on that same pattern. And then the kids can begin to take on that same pattern also. So you have to be really careful.
And that withdrawal piece, it's not even just about overt communication about the relationship, because that's kind of what when I'm thinking about this as a losing strategy, I'm thinking in terms of when we're communicating in a relationship.
Exactly.
But withdrawal also, like you're pointing out, can just show up where it would be just being together in the form of the tasks of daily life.
Exactly.
Being present.
Showing up, just being there together. It doesn't have to be a withdrawal from communication in the relationship. It can be withdrawal from just life in general and the logistics of daily life. That's definitely a big one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We call those misery stabilizers, right? So the things that we will turn to so easily instead of turning to our partners, when we should be having a conversation about why do we feel the need to zone out for hours upon end. I mean, hours upon end.
It's really almost a form of self-medication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Exactly, yeah.
Also, it shows up, lots of partners will leave, right? Like, and stay gone. Mm-hmm. Sometimes partners will stay gone like all evening, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes partners will just storm out, you know, after an argument and just leave.
Or in the middle of an argument, like that's it, you know, that leaving an argument right in the middle of it and not having any sense of like, when is the person coming back? Are we going to finish talking about this when we cool off? Is this just, you're left hanging, you leave them hanging?
Right. Yeah.
It can be storming out of the house, or it can be storming out of the room. It can be going in your room and locking the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Just being unavailable for the rest of the night. That's another way.
Acting angry, you know, and using that as a reason to withdraw. And storming out of the house or leaving all night, that's not the same thing as taking a timeout, right? It's not.
It's not responsible distance taking. It's not, you're not leaving saying, hey, I'm upset right now. I'll come back at 10 o'clock. Let's talk about it then, right? That would be, there's a sense of accountability with a timeout. But
well, you're
not accountable.
Exactly. You're actually taking the action of diffusing, you know, the situation, you know, and just really trying to keep it as least as volatile as possible, you know. So that, I mean, I think that's a healthy way, you know, what we're talking about, but a lot of times it doesn't show up that way.
Right.
Exactly.
And then another way it'll show up is, you know, what's the point of having a conversation? You know, it's not going to get anywhere. So why even bother?
If brings up a topic, you're just basically not game, like at all. And instead of saying, hey, I'm not ready to talk about it now, let's talk about it later, it can show up as just a refusal repeatedly to even be open to a conversation at all and to argue for the uselessness of having that conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like a stance that you can take, not just in an argument, but a stance that you can take pervasively in the relationship of like, I just don't really talk about stuff like that. That's another way of showing up.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I think another way it shows up too is that there's withdrawal from sex or intimacy or affection.
Yeah.
That can be retaliatory, or it can just be like if you're hurt and you just can't connect, but you're not able to or willing to talk about it, that you just withdraw and shut down around that. And then another one is work. People become really immersed in work and they use work as a way of withdrawing and avoiding some of the things that
that's a big one.
I have clients who've moved hours away
for their work
on purpose to withdraw. But it's work, so it's okay.
Right. It seems legitimate if it's work.
And people who are workaholics will do the, you know, I can't do you, I can't do the kids, I can't do it, I have to work. Right?
Yep. And because we live in a world that's so, you know, we are like workaholics and in the US especially.
Career driven, money driven. Yeah.
It's like, it's very much, that comes first. That comes first all the time. So people can hide behind that.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing that's so striking about withdrawal is that there are so many different ways to do it. And a lot of times, like you mentioned, Kelly, it can be really blatant and mean. But a lot of times it is really because people think it's the least harmful way of going.
Right.
Like, they figure it's do no harm because if I just walk away, then I'm not making things worse.
Right.
But it really does hurt your marriage. That's the thing you want to get across.
It does because you want to take each other on.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because intimacy requires that. If you really want to have a deeply intimate, emotionally connected relationship, and if you want to have passion in your marriage, you have to be able to take each other on, and you have to be able to be transparent and take a stand and be authentic from the inside out. Right. That's when sparks fly if you do it right.
Right.
So let's talk about how this hurts your marriage briefly, and then we'll move into like what people can do instead.
Yeah.
Number one, the most obvious thing is that couples are not going to be able to resolve conflict if they withdraw. So what happens? Things get shoved under the rug, resentments build, people wait, and then they just wait until it doesn't feel so strong, and then they forget about it, and then they reconnect for a little while, and then the next thing, one small little thing comes up, and all that stuff that never got resolved, that was shoved under the rug, is going to come back up again.
Yeah.
And it magnifies over time the more that you don't resolve it.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes very damaging, because, and then it becomes one of those things that begins to affect every other area of your relationship, because it's the elephant in the room, that nobody wants to talk about,
Right. And resentment always comes out. Resentment always comes out some way, somehow. Right.
Yeah.
Even if you're withdrawing, like you're still communicating. You think of withdrawal as the absence of communication, but actually it is a form of communication. You are communicating a lot when you're withdrawing. You're communicating that you're not investing, you're not facing them squarely, you're not dealing with them. It's almost like ignoring.
Yeah.
It's like neglect. And it's painful. It's really painful.
Yeah.
When you're the person if you're the person who's been walked away from in the middle of something and you're left hanging, that's painful.
Yeah.
Or if you're the person who keeps trying to bring something up and your spouse just won't talk about it with you. It feels rejecting, even if that's not their intention. That's the impact that it has.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it also, go ahead, babe.
No, you go ahead.
You guys are so polite today.
You go.
Well, I was just going to say, essentially, nobody likes to feel neglected or that someone's avoiding them. The reason why you're in a relationship is so that you can build something healthy and communicative and fruitful. And when you get to these places, it becomes very damaging, because you begin to lose trust in yourself or the ideals that you have around what the relationship should look like. And then you start, rather, it may be the case that your partner truly has an issue, but you may begin to take the onus of going, hey, is this my problem? Am I doing something wrong? That this person doesn't want to listen to me. They don't want to, or they run out of the room every time I bring this up, and it makes you feel horrible, And so you begin to lose trust in yourself. You begin to lose trust in that person, to be able to communicate in ways that are very healthy. And that's what it's the domino effect downward at that point, because it leads to, okay, I can't trust them, so I can't open up and talk about how I feel about sex, maybe, or other areas where
it has
there's
a ripple effect.
Yeah. So
and you brought up trust, Ned, because actually it is a form of betrayal, isn't it? Because what you're communicating is that you've given up on them, you've given up on the relationship. Yeah.
Ultimately, that's where it leads.
And it does get registered as a betrayal. And so that's such a good point, that it erodes trust that ripples out into other areas of the relationship.
Exactly.
You have to get a hand.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, when your relationship is in those places where you just can't talk to one another, and one or both people are withdrawing, and then when it gets to a place where both people are withdrawing, that's you're looking at really close to the end there. And it affects all the areas of your life. Mm-hmm. If your relationship is screwed up, everything else in your life is going to not be at the optimal level that it could be, you know?
Right. So if you think you're putting something first in service of the family, like I'm going to put work first, I'm going to withdraw in that way, or I'm just going to avoid that conflict for the sake of keeping peace, you're actually not investing psychologically into the foundation of your life. Like you're basically
Right.
neglecting the foundation.
Exactly.
And that's really dangerous. And I think it reminds me too, what you said, Kelly, how close you get to the edge when you're shut down. It reminds me of Dr. John Gottman and how he talks about the 4 horsemen, which he's really just talking about the 4 biggest predictors from the research that he did, the 4 biggest predictors of divorce. And he can, predict if couples are going to make it to like 97% accuracy based on his research. One of the biggest indicators that you are toward the end is stonewalling. That there's 3 other ones too, like defensiveness, criticism. I can't remember what the other one is, but stonewalling was the one that's like closest to the end, because once you've shut down, once you start stonewalling and it's like almost over. So if you're at that point, definitely take notice, definitely recognize the importance of where you're at, and that you have a really important, like pivotal opportunity to recognize that and say, I've got to do something differently. Because statistically, if you're stonewalling and you're shutting down and you're not able to engage or whatever, then there's already been so much damage, because it comes from a place of giving up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what can people do? Let's talk about that then. What can people do? We were talking about this earlier before we hopped on this live stream, 3 of us. And Kelly, you had mentioned that it's really important to know why, because there's so many different reasons why people withdraw, right? The first thing would be, why are you withdrawing? And you have to look at
So you have to know why is your partner withdrawing? What's the root cause? And you have to communicate about that. You have to talk to your partner, ask them, why are you mad? Why are you sad?
Is it anger? Why
are you withdrawing?
Yeah.
Do you want something from me that I'm not giving to you? And so many times, a lot of times, especially with women and men, it's both. But I see it a lot with women, because I've seen it in my damn self many times, where it's like, you can be pissed off about something, but that's really not even what you're pissed off about. You're pissed off about something totally different that is a root cause that began years ago that you have never brought up. You let it just be brushed under the rug, and you never said anything because you settled for it from the beginning, and now you don't want to say anything, or you're scared to bring it up because you don't want, to hurt your partner's feelings, or you don't want your partner to get mad and then attack you. It's like, you have to be open and be able to go in deep enough to figure out, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? And then ask your partner for that. But, you have to get the healthy communication tools in place. And if you don't have those, you need to learn them.
Exactly. Like how to set limits respectfully, how to take a time out in a way that doesn't leave them hanging, like responsible distance taking is what he calls it. Basically, that sense, there's a way to do it where you're not withdrawing, but you're taking space, because sometimes you get flooded. Sometimes you have to take a time out. That's okay.
Exactly.
There's just a way to do it. And it takes emotional awareness. It takes emotional intelligence. It takes knowing the tools and skills, and knowing yourself enough to know, why am I doing this? What am I afraid of? Usually it's something we're afraid of. Vulnerability, giving our spouse ammo against us. Like there's something at stake. Figure out what's at stake for you.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And get really deep with yourself. Get intentional. Like, where is it coming from? And when you're also, again, I'll say, when you're speaking to your spouse, be very intentional when you're speaking, and really mind the energy that's coming from behind the words that you're speaking. Super important.
Yes. Right. Because it's not just about the words, for sure.
It's the intention behind the words is everything.
Yes. Great. So knowing why, learning the healthy communication tools, like setting limits respectfully, learning how to take a time out with integrity, learning those tools of communication, and setting your intention behind your communication. which you can't really do unless you know what's at stake for you. So if you can really do a brainstorm on those things and get deeper awareness around that, you will be able to not only communicate if you're the one that's withdrawing, you'll be able to really support your spouse if they're struggling in creating a safe place to talk about why are they withdrawing.
Right.
Is there something that we need? Is there something, So yeah, that would be it. I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. And if you guys want to learn this process in more detail, if you want to learn how to take distance responsibly, if you want to learn how to communicate in a way where you're really holding your own lines while honoring your spouse so that you can get what you truly want out of your marriage, then I invite you to book a call. You can book it at monikahoyt.com/talk. And if on this call, basically, you would talk to one of us and we would just look at your relationship. We would look at your communication. We would kind of do a deep dive around your losing strategies, what's at stake for each of you, what your dynamics are, what's not working, and then what you want. Help you get clarity on that. And then if that's something that we can help you with, we will let you know that. And we'll look at, we'll tell you what that would look like. If it's something we can't help you with, we'll point you in the right direction and connect you with the resources that will help you.
Absolutely.
And then also 2 other things. If you have comments or questions, you can put them below and we will circle back and answer them. And I'm also going to put a link to my masterclass, which is a 45-minute class that I did that's on the 5 shifts that you have to have. Really kind of a comprehensive look at the mindset shifts that people need that will help you create a healthy, authentic marriage. It's really about going from a place of emotional disconnection to a healthy, deeply connected, happy marriage. So that's more of a broad overview of what's required. And I will put a link below for that.
And it's immense value. And you can really accelerate and jumpstart having awesome results in your marriage just by watching the masterclass. It's awesome. And if you want to book a class, after you kind of get a taste, just a small taste of what we do, you can book a call after that as well.
Yeah. And I just want to stack on what Kelly said about the masterclass. I know a lot of people, this is just one aspect of where people have problems in their relationships. The masterclass answers a lot of other questions that people may have that aren't being talked about right now. And so it opens up a huge window of opportunity for you to kind of really take a look at your relationship. Look at the dynamic of your relationship and truly assess what type of help you need, and where the areas where you struggle. Monika does a really masterful job of really showing you how that works and the dynamic behind it. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Ned.
Yeah.
Because for this series, we've been very specific. We've been really honing in on really specific things. And we're going to be doing another series. We're going to be talking about the winning strategies next. And I'm excited for that. We're going to start that next Thursday. Oh, actually, we might do an interview first. Stay tuned. But the masterclass is just more of a broad, 30,000 foot view on what it takes to create a healthy, authentic marriage. And it's free. So be sure to check that out as well. Yeah. So with that, you guys, thanks for coming. Thank you, Ned and Kelly, as always. We love having you, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.
Have a good
day. Bye-bye.
Bye.